Hey everybody, this is Shane from ADAPTURE. Just a little update on my life. I've actually recently moved to Hong Kong for the past year, and just to be closer to production and closer for everything for the brand. But I've actually been taking on some freelance jobs and been working with some clients to develop their brands. And one of the clients that I've actually met is the good people from Hazard Hunters. And I wanted to just kind of go over a little bit of the process it's been for the past 6-7 months that we worked together, and what steps we took to get this product to come to life. I was approached by Kevin and Michael on trying to figure out how to develop a new brand in this growing market of golf. It is definitely a growing market in the apparel industry, just because I think the demographic is changing. There's more and more people who are getting into the sport, and I believe it's actually a pretty interesting market right now. People say it's saturated, but I actually believe that there's still a lot more different niches you can really target into it. Since it's a rapidly changing sport, the demographic can range from up-and-coming youth to recently retiring, or even people who just want to pick up a new hobby. So I think golf, in terms of apparel, there's still some room to grow. First things that we work together on is trying to figure out who our demographic is. I think for Hazard Hunters, they already kind of developed an interesting brand identity with a lot of these characters that they've been working on. And I think with the characters and being out here in Asia, I can see such a strong significance of relatability with how people interact with characters in general. Especially with the characters, I think it reaches a younger demographic. It's not as serious, so it's not really for the 50 and plus older generation who took golf super serious their whole lives. I think it's more for like an up-and-coming market, from 18, even younger, to maybe our age, 30-something, who kind of still wants to take the sport a little bit more light. So from the start, I actually believe that working with these guys, they have something that really set them apart from all the different golf brands out there right now. It's definitely a little bit more fun, not as serious, and I think it really shows who they are as well as a brand. What we try to do with conceptualizing Hazard Hunters, we looked at how to utilize these characters and think about a product that actually fits into the whole world. So starting out as a new brand, it's hard to figure out what your demographic is without any data, and we tried to make a collection that's a little safe so that we can test out the market a little bit. We believe that our core demographic are players who are mostly casual, who trying to be more fun with the sport instead of taking it super serious. So we believe that a lot of people might be wearing it just for comfort, on and off the course. They're not playing the whole 18 holes every week. They could be just in the driving range or pitch and putt, but still just love the game and love the sport of golf. So that being said, that was the focus on our product collection. We're trying to make stuff that's extremely comfortable, easily loungeable after the course, and a blend of streetwear and loungewear mixed with some golf-inspired details. So for the first season, we wanted to create a line that's a little bit more accessible and digestible for first season. We wanted to make a range of comfy fleece, relaxed fit t-shirts, more of a relaxed fit polo, and something that can cater to the casual golfers. So a core interest of a group is actually we all actually have a deep interest for streetwear. So we wanted something a little bit more relaxed and aligned with something we would actually just wear day to day. So one of the perks of me moving to Hong Kong is actually I'm able to go up to China to go source the fabric direct. So I was able to go to Guangzhou in the fabric mall Zhongdai to be able to just see what kind of fabric is in the market, and also get a little inspiration, find something that would actually be a little bit more unique for hazard hunters. Going through the whole mall takes legit a couple hours. It's like a whole day's event, but I was able to find a source that actually had a really good fleece terry. You know, something that we were looking for was a little bit of a heavier weight terry cotton, but we also didn't want it to be as noticeable. We wanted it to be softer to the touch. So this tight knit terry was closer to through 400 GSM cotton that we thought would be nice on the skin and also breathable to the point where you can actually wear this year round. We actually had to go through a different supplier, but this t-shirt knit fabric mill, they were actually providing some of the craziest weights of cotton jersey that I've ever seen as stock fabric. From lightweight 150 GSM jerseys to up to 450. We decided to use 300 GSM jersey cotton that is still very substantial, but not so heavy that it feels kind of like a sweater, but you can still wear it and it still feels like a very premium t-shirt. So when I first started working with hazard hunters, we really wanted to figure out what our marquee product would be. And for golf, polos are probably the biggest must-have that you should have in your product collection. So we wanted to really focus on making our polo our marquee product. And how do we do that? We had to make it very different from what's out there in the market. So in terms of loungewear, we still stuck with like 100% cotton, but we actually developed this fabric ourselves in a sense where we processed it with a softener. So it's going to be a lot more, I guess, soft to the touch on the body, and we kept it a little bit more loose fitting, so it's definitely more relaxed. One of the signature details that we did was this contrast collar and contrast placket. In order to do that, we had to yarn dye the cotton to match the placket. So this whole process is actually pretty custom. We had to get lab dips for the body fabric, get lab dips for the collar, and get lab dips for the collar tipping. So everything throughout this piece was as custom as it could be. Another thing that we had to try to work with is trying to make our brand stand out. So we were trying to figure out how do we subtly implement seasonal colors into this line. We decided to use this bright mandarin orange color as our seasonal color, but we wanted to be a little bit more creative with the branding. So we actually tried to think about different places we can actually integrate these colors into each piece. We custom developed this bungee cord and also branded metal cord lock. This is also carried on over to our bucket hat. You know, the idea is that we can actually kind of put things in there. It could be a tea, it could be a pencil. Another signature detail that we were trying to think of is how do we actually make branding functional? So we made this microfiber T-tab that we call it. So where you can actually hold a T on it. You know, you misplace T's or you actually just want to keep one on deck. So we thought it would be a cool little detail to have something functional in that sense. Another thing that I mentioned while developing the brand is that we have to have some sort of brand signifiers that's cohesive throughout the collection. A little design detail that we came up with is to have asymmetrical detailing throughout each piece. If you notice on our hoodies, only one side of the sleeve actually has the double needle stitch with the contrast stitching. The other one is actually just plain. So with a lot of streetwear brands, they have a lot of these little design details that sets it apart from you know, a normal fast fashion brand. The branding is really something that we really focused on for this season. The aspect of the brand that we're trying to build is accessories that can be kind of like our seasonal collectibles. You know, kind of like the way Supreme does their accessories every season. We wanted to make our accessories a little bit more unique in that sense, although still golf related. Of course, one of the products that we made is a driver cover. The manufacturer that we work with specifically does a lot of golf accessories and golf apparel. So they're pretty much on point with all the little details that we were trying to add in terms from material to embroidery colors to embroidery thread to even the lining that we decided to use. They were actually able to make it pretty spot on to what we initially sent over in our tech packs. Adding on to that, our supplier also made us these ball markers, which are made completely custom. And you know, as our first launch, I think it really signifies how we're trying to separate ourselves from all the other brands. One thing that we also wanted to emphasize for our collection is to have it cohesively fitted properly so that someone could just pick up a shirt, you know, and get our sweatpants, and if they know that they're medium, they are confident that they can buy a medium in another product. So one thing that we did was we had a specific fit model who was fitted for every sample along the way. So every prototype that we did, we made all the adjustments on him. And on the female set, we also had another female model that we did the same for the female polos. So these measures that we took, especially for a new brand, it'll actually be able to give us longevity in the sense where we can build that trust in the customers in knowing how each product will actually fit. And that was very important on our end to make sure that this first season got that bang on. So that whole process that we did actually took us around for 4 months, 4 or 5 months. A lot of trial and error with our prototypes, but with better communication, we were actually able to speed things up. Especially being here in Hong Kong, it was actually so much easier to, you know, get a sample within a week, find a fabric that we actually like, test it out, and see the second sample within the month. You know, something like this is almost like impossible if we were to do it overseas. Back in Canada, it would take us around like 2 months just to be able to see one sample. So, you know, like when we make those changes for second samples to third samples, it is just very, very time consuming if that's the case, which is waiting for, you know, fabrics to ship or whatever. So being here in Hong Kong actually sped everything up significantly and definitely expedited our whole process. Another huge thing of being here in Hong Kong is that we were actually able to build a strong relationship with the factories within that short time window through really good communication. I think on both ends, the factory appreciates good communication. On my end, it's a lot easier to talk to them because they actually understand it. And being here, if there was any issues, time difference wasn't an issue. We can go up and talk to them about how we're gonna make adjustments, or if they had any questions about any details, they can just email me or even just give me a quick call if there was anything. So that convenience and professionality from the factory actually made this whole process so smooth. Of course, not every product was made by the same factory, and we had to use different suppliers for majority of our product range. I think the biggest challenge of starting a new brand is to make everything cohesive, and that's one thing that we tried to make sure that every product that we made, especially if it's in a different factory, all the trims and all the hang tags to packaging, it looks the same so the brand looks like a cohesive brand. And it looks like it's all made in one factory. That was one of the biggest parts that I was trying to emphasize for this project, and I definitely believe that we achieved it. Working with the team has been amazing. You know, we were able to work together to create a brand from scratch within, you know, a couple months and achieve something that is very hard to achieve, and the outcome of it was actually amazing. From production to photo shoot to marketing, everything has been really well thought out for the short time that we've done it, and I'm really excited on how it turned out. So it's been a pleasure working with the team, and we still have a lot of stuff in the pipeline. Hope you guys look forward for more. This is the first drop. We will have a second drop later in the coming months. Please check out the website, hazardhunters.net. You know, I hope this video actually gives some good insight for the transparency between us. Even for the brand, it is a strong message for us to speak on how we develop it and the journey it took us to get to where we are. Yeah, let me know if you want to see more videos of this. Take care. Bye.